Hello everyone. Hi, my name is Kelly Robson and I am the moderator for our panel tonight. The panel is what is the best way to put your work out there? And I'm just going to read the pricey just so we all know. With the ever-changing world of publishing, there is an overwhelming number of ways to put your work in front of an audience. Is there a best way to achieve the fame and fortune we all deserve? Is there any one way that is the best across the board? Can we effectively pick and choose depending on the work we want to promote? And we are waiting for two other panelists to join us, but I think we might as well just start and go right ahead. And I will ask Gail Carriger to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Gail, and I am a hybrid author. I started out being traditionally published, and I also self-publish, and I do audiobooks and all sorts of other stuff, small press, large press. So, but some short stories, but mostly novel length or novelette and novel length works.
Excellent. And this is especially important that we tell each other what types of work that we work in, especially for this particular panel, because our advice is going to be couched in what we are most expert in. And we have Jennifer Foehner-Wells. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I write primarily science fiction, space opera, and I started out as independently published, and then got some translation deals overseas that were more traditional. I have published 5 books so far in one series, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. And my name is Kelly Robson. I am mostly I'm a short fiction writer, and I publish in the traditional short fiction market. So that is where I am most familiar. And I'm edging into the world of longer fiction very, very slowly and happily. So, but my expertise is definitely in short fiction. So we are hoping that Brenda Clough will join us. Maybe they are having a little bit of tech trouble, but if they join us, we will definitely welcome them into the fold here tonight. Please do write questions in the chat, and I will address them, if not during our panel, I will address them to our participants as appropriate or at the end. So my first question is, and this is such a leading question, I'm gonna throw it out to you, Jennifer. Is there one way? Is there a great one way?
No. There are so many ways that you can get people's attention. And I mean, if you've got a good product, you just need to get eyeballs on it, really. And then often things can grow organically from there. But yeah, there are lots of different ways. I know that what I did in 2014 that led to some crazy success doesn't really work anymore. I can tell you that. So just because social media has changed a great deal over the last few years, particularly with the political climate and so on, people aren't as interested in talking about fluffy things like entertainment. They're more interested in talking about politics, often on social media. So. But yeah, it's a dynamic and changing world. So,
would you agree with that too, Gail? How fast does it move?
I would agree. It's really interesting. I always say that the Hollywood and the publishing industry, both of them suffer from fiber in their diet issues, which is everything either moves really, really quickly or not at all. So that has been my experience. There are certainly things about traditional publishing in particular that have not changed since I've been in my decade of being traditionally published, or over a decade now. So, and then there are things, particularly in the self-publishing arena, that just move so quickly. I'm like, just throw your hands up. So yeah, I don't think there is one good way. I do think that a lot of what works is going to be, at least in part, conditional on what you write, but also on your own personality.
Oh gosh.
So much so. So I have traditionally published authors who will sidle up to me and be like, so the self-publishing business, and I'll just be like, baby, not for you. You want to sit in your ivory tower and write the thing and then have nothing to do with it, then it's self-publishing is, like, you just don't have the personality for it. You can give it a try, but don't say I didn't warn you. And then the reverse is also true, where there are people who are like, I got a traditional publishing contract, and I'll just be like, that's going to put a lot of restrictions on you, and you thrive on independence and creativity and being able to pivot. And you are going to be nothing but frustrated in the publishing industry. So yeah, I do think know thyself as an author and as a business, and how you want to think about that business. The other thing I think holds true across the board, and I don't care if it is short story, traditional, whatever it is get thyself a newsletter. That is the one piece of advice I wish I had had early on in my career, and it is the one piece of advice I think every author should have a newsletter, because of the changing nature of the industry and because of the changing nature of social media. The only way you can own the eyeballs of your fans is via a newsletter. And it doesn't matter how you publish, you have to have a newsletter. So
That is so interesting. Wow. Because that seems like such an old technology now.
I know, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's still the most likely thing to get read when you send it out and that sort of thing. And then there are courses you can take and things you can learn about how to do that newsletter well, and how to make sure that people open it and read it and stuff like that. But it is the biggest piece of advice I wish I'd had earlier on in my career, and I think it still holds.
Yeah, and you're not the only person I've heard say that too. How about you, Jennifer? Do you do that?
Yeah, I do that. That was, yeah. I mean, you can tweet, but everybody doesn't see every tweet, even if they're super active on Twitter. Same with, other social media. So the one thing that everyone tends to open is their email. So that's, that is a great way to get, the notice that you need. And luring people in to get to that is, there are lots of ways to do that. You can give away free content, which a lot of people do these days. Often people are giving away novels to try to get people to sign up for their newsletter. I give away a short story. So yeah, that's probably the most important, I would say.
Wow.
You can also activate for exclusive content. I mean, we're going to get into the nitty gritty real freaking quick.
No, please. Like,
I love so much. I happen to be one of those weird authors who just loves like spreadsheets and back end data crunching and that sort of thing. So sorry. But I do exclusive content a lot to my newsletter. And I am happy to talk numbers. My newsletter is 12,000. I knock that sucker down real quickly, at least twice a year. If you're not reading it, I unsubscribe you with a little apology. I'm interested in quality over quantity. And I have a 62% open rate and an 18% click-through rate. For those of you who don't know your newsletter numbers, that's extremely good. Mm-hmm. And I work the newsletter is the thing I work on the hardest to write after my books. So all other content is below the newsletter as far as I'm concerned. And I do exclusive content on my newsletter. And by that, I mean things like I do audiobooks, self-published audiobooks pretty regularly. But if you are self-publishing through Audible, which is Amazon, they make you sign a contract for 7 years. And so one of the things I do is to my newsletter, because it's not front facing, all of my newsletter has the option to buy the audiobook from me outright the month before it goes to Amazon. And then they own the MP3 files themselves. Amazon doesn't own them. That can never take it away from them. It's not a subscription service or anything. And then I will put that book up on Amazon, and it will only be on Audible and Apple. And then anybody comes to me and says, why can't I get the audiobook on Google Play? I will say, well, you can wait 7 years, or maybe you should think about joining my newsletter.
Good strategy.
That way. And I do that a lot, where I you can only get signed book plates from me if you belong to my newsletter. I open up that window whenever I have a new book release. Otherwise you have to find me at a convention. So I think and exclusive, like sneak peeks, early stuff. I'm about to do I don't do short stories very often. I'm doing something called an interstitial short story, which is a short story that just ties to books. And so you have to have read previous stuff in the series or the short story won't make sense. So there's no point in me selling that short story. So the only people who are going to be able to get it have to belong to the newsletter. I might eventually put it up for sale, but it's going to go to the newsletter first.
Wow. And that's a huge investment of your time, and obviously it's worth it for you. That's fantastic.
It is, yeah, it's totally worth it for me. And the startling effect of the newsletter, I mean, and this has taken me a long time to build up, of course. For newer writers out there, it takes you a while. It's going to take a long time to get people onto your newsletter, but I urge you to get into the habit early on. Is like everybody kind of knows and gets really excited, and like my fan groups and stuff, and starts to talk about the newsletters coming, so there's definitely a fear of missing out thing that goes on. And I forgot what I was going to say. So
I think we should all subscribe to Gail's newsletter and see what magic you are happening.
Feel free. I'll unsub you if you don't end up opening it or reading it or whatever. And you should join it, see how it works, unsubscribe from it, because it also will take you through a workflow and show you what a workflow looks like. That does this, that offers the chain of here's the free thing you get, here's the da-da-da-da-da. I'm actually just reviewing my workflow right now. But it's just, so I had this book come out, which is a nonfiction book. And so I worry about pollution in my also bots on Amazon in particular. In other words, I don't want a bunch of fiction books to show up as also buys for a nonfiction book. So I actually actively tried to get my readers to buy this not on Amazon. So I offered it to my newsletter, and if you bought it via my newsletter, the digital edition, it would be $2 less, and you'd get it 2 weeks early.
Nice.
So, and that meant that a bunch of people who might have bought it on Amazon all instead decided to buy it directly from me, and then it didn't touch the Amazon also bots. So so that was an exclusive, but it was also, there was a business reason for me to offer that exclusive. So yeah, the newsletter.
That is fantastic. Somebody is suggesting that you should make a newsletter for writers to teach them about newsletters. We'd pay for it. That was fantastic. And Jennifer, obviously you've had your newsletter around for a while as well. Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing it?
Since 2014, I believe.
Okay.
I have about half the subscribers that Gail has, but I am not optimized like Gail is. So let me just say that. But I'm looking at these tips and tricks, and I'm thinking there's a lot I can still do with that. So yeah.
One of the things I do, which is very simple, is I don't really like to talk about what I'm writing right now, because I feel like if it's not done yet, I'm writing checks that I can't cash.
Yep,
right?
yep.
I don't want fans to get excited about something and then me to be like, yeah, no, it sucks, I'm not going to publish it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to submit it to a traditional publisher, so it might be a couple of years before you ever see it. But I do talk about what I'm writing to my newsletter. So if you want to know what I'm actually working on, again, you have to sub to the newsletter. And these are just things I do goodie boxes and things like that too, like physical giveaways as well. So yeah, that was a lot of newsletters.
Do you get any, somebody's asking, do you get any problems from Amazon about doing this?
So Amazon does not allow you to, technically speaking, in their terms of service, you're not allowed to use an affiliate code in your newsletter. So oh my God, this is deep dive hack. I'm sorry, everybody.
It's okay. Do it. We're all
I
interested.
use Draft2Digital's Books Redirect, the Books to Read service, and I have 3 accounts with them. One of them is just for my books that I've written. One of them is for books that I recommend all the time on my blog and stuff like that. So I collect affiliate code on both of those things because you are allowed to blog post on your website and places that blog posts, like Tumblr, for example.
Mm-hmm. And that kicks back a little bit of money to you.
It just kicks back I grow them out, but for me, it's more important to track all of this information. I'm just very interested. Like I said, I'm interested in data. So I want to know if I recommend a book, how many people are going to go buy it. Do that author and I actually share a lot of fans? Should I recommend books in the future, by that person, that kind of thing. And Books to Read, because I'm wide as a self-published author, recommends books on all platforms, not just Amazon. And then my third Books to Read account is an account that does not have an Amazon affiliate code in it. So I can still track, because Books to Read allows you to track, and I will often also use a redirect via my website so I can track it there as well. But the Amazon field won't have the affiliate code, so I'm not in violation of their terms of service. And that's specifically for my newsletter. So that's how I avoid the TOS situation. I do recommend on social media all the time with an affiliate code, which Amazon does not like either. And I have been flagged up and they've gotten mad at me. But fortunately, I also have an extremely loud Tumblr account for some reason. And I just posted Amazon, I just linked the flag up to the Tumblr account, which counts as a blog. And then Amazon was like, oh yeah, that did get a lot of shares. Okay, you're fine. So, I managed to get out of it that way. But like I said, I'm not too fussed if my affiliate code gets canceled out, because it's not so much the income I'm raising from it as the tracking ability. And I haven't run ads in a really long time. So the tracking ability is not as important as it used to be in the good old days.
So I have a question for about independent self-publishing. Somebody is asking if I have shorts, as a self-pub author, if I have shorts and novellas out there that only make sense to fans, should I put them all into one novel length piece on Amazon as or release each 15K story for 99 cents? What makes most sense to
I would say do both.
Do both.
I would release them serially at 99 cents each, and then create an omnibus. Yeah, that's what I would do.
I would consider, depending on how many you have, you might consider one of them for bait for your newsletter.
Yes.
In which case, don't publish it, just offer it as an exclusive. You can publish it. My bait is also published for 99 cents, so you can buy it. You don't have to join the newsletter to get it. But I'm extremely well established, so I think that is most of the reason people join my newsletter is not the bait. I'm not trying to get people on the newsletter. The bait is just a perk, really. Also, the bait is for a series that's not as popular as my mainstay series, and I'm trying to get new readers onto that series, so that's why I use that short story for bait. The other thing to consider is doing the short stories, not doing an omnibus, but doing a print edition as an omnibus. If you'd like to start driving towards print traffic for some reason or another. Once you become established, you can also cut print exclusive deals. So I do that with Subterranean Press, who came up on a previous panel, but they do a collector's edition hardbacks, which are omnibuses of my novellas, and my novellas are available in digital and in paperback print, but then I will bundle, do an omnibus with a beautiful hardcover that has a different look to it for collectors. And that's just an additional way to generate revenue and an income stream. So that's another alternative, is to think about how you might bundle a collection of shorts to a different market, a different reader base, because digital and print are still pretty separate. I have quite a few fans who buy both, but there are people who just want print.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We could probably talk about newsletters for the entire 50 minutes. But I'm going to switch tacks a little bit. We can always come back to it. Do either of you have any experience with Patreon, and what do you think of it? No?
I was approached by Patreon early on. Right as my early success happened, they were forming, I think. And at the time, I thought, you know, I want to put my energy into writing books, and you know, I felt like generating content just for patrons would take me away from my ultimate goal. I have since come around. I haven't actually formed a Patreon, but I'm strongly considering it now. As an independent author, if I don't write, I don't really earn. So I've been ill for a couple of years and haven't been able to produce. And but my readers are still behind me, and they keep urging me to start a Patreon. Just and they say they don't want anything in return, but I definitely would not do that. But it's definitely something that I think a lot of authors are turning to so that they can quit their day job. A lot of traditionally published authors do not make enough to quit the day job, but with something like Patreon, they certainly can, especially if their readership is quite large. Trying to think of examples, but no names are coming to mind. But yeah, I think it's a good idea, but you have to be able to offer something, I think, to keep their interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I know some authors give short stories on a monthly basis, or little flash fictions, or some, like the book plates that Gail mentioned, things like that, other rewards.
Right. There are some other platforms that allow you to offer newsletters for pay.
I think coffee.
Yeah.
Um,
There's the tip jar concepts too, from the olden days of podcasting and things like that. I have some friends who are running, author friends who are running Patreons. I would think about it perhaps if I considered serialization. I suffer from perfectionist paranoia, so I don't like to put anything I've written out without 2 sets of copy edits and 1 set of dev edits. So I think it unlikely I would ever go to serialization. I do understand the appeal. I think, again, it kind of depends on your personality as a writer. And the thing I always urge people to consider is, a lot of people leave a day job or attempt to make a go at being a full-time author because they don't like having a boss. And for me, Patreon is trading in one boss for tons of tiny bosses. I don't really want my fans to become too proprietary about my writing process, I guess. I don't mind if they become proprietary about my books once they're out there. But yeah, so that is mostly what I'm nervous about, is like having tons of tiny bosses being like, yeah, we didn't get our short story this month. And
yeah, I had when I've been thinking about Patreon, I've had a hard time thinking of what kind of content I could offer that wouldn't be too that wouldn't take away from my writing time as much. The only thing that I could come up with is stories of all of the ridiculous and embarrassing things that I've done in my life. 1 per month, you get a story about, my first skidoo crash, that kind of thing. I could go for years on this kind of content. I don't know if anybody would want it. All right, so I'm going to ask, so we're going to talk about small micro-publishing, small publishers. Somebody asks, I've been published in anthologies by small publishers who don't publicize their offerings. How do I let people know that I'm there? And I guess my further question is, at this point, you're building your audience, right? So who are the people that you're wanting to know that you're there? And it could be your peers, which it is important, I think, for us all to have writing buddies, writing peers. And so I'm just going to say, online communities are fantastic for finding your peers. Maybe make contact with other people who are in those anthologies and see what they're up to, and what cons they go to and that sort of thing. But how does somebody start, this is my question for Jennifer and for Gail, as a new writer, how do you start building your reputation and your readership?
It's been a long time since
hard.
I've had to do that.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
It's really hard. I would say, so this is assuming that you're named in the anthology as a contributor and that that anthology is out in the world. There are 3 places you must go immediately. You should have an author identity on Goodreads, on Amazon Author Central, and on BookBub. And just go in, make your author identity, claim it, and then claim the book as a contributor. And that begins the process of giving yourself a backlist and content. Like early on. Make it as clean as possible. So, give yourself a nice author photo, make sure your bio is clean and simple. There are lots of little tricks and things that you can do with this. You can take a look at how I do it or how other authors you like and who seem to have a handle on their online identity and their brand pretty well do it. For example, my Amazon bio encourages people to follow me on Amazon, and it also includes a link to my newsletter. And then the rest of the bio is quite short because I'm going to assume you can see all of my books where they're there on Amazon, because I'm really so I check Amazon Author Central twice a month. Just to make sure I have all of my books claimed, it's clean, they haven't done something janky. And those are because what that anthology has given you is the start of a platform. And it's legitimized it because you're in an anthology that is traditionally published. So there's still that little bit of extra legitimacy you get because of it. And so I would capitalize on that by starting the process of owning your platform.
Mm-hmm. So that is Amazon Central, which is Amazon's kind of central area for authors.
Amazon Author Central, yeah, which is their central location for us to manage our content. And you can claim a book there, and you don't have to have published it. So, right, so I can go claim all of my Parasol Protectorate, for example, even though I'm not the publisher of those books. If you then publish your own stuff, it will automatically be added there, but it's still a good idea to go in and check. So I go in and check because I also get foreign translations coming up a lot and stuff like that.
So even if we're, sorry, go ahead.
Goodreads, which Goodreads has an author platform as well. It is antiquated, but it's what you get. So make sure you claim that. Also, there are lots of tricks for Goodreads. And then I encourage people to do BookBub as well. And the reason you want to do BookBub as well is because it's wide, it's not Amazon exclusive. And all 3 of these platforms are important to claim because they all have a follow feature. And what you'll find going forward as a writer is that there are people who hate newsletters and they're never going to join your newsletter. They hate social media. They're readers. They don't want to interface on social media. But what they are is members of the book community. And the 3 avenues they have for following you as a writer and learning about your new releases are BookBub, Goodreads, and Amazon. And so that's why you need to own those, because that's the only other way you can get people to know when you have a new book or a new piece of content come out. And so I actually on my unsubscribe from my newsletter, I have a thing that says, oh, did you just want new release information? Follow me on BookBub, here's a link. Follow me on Amazon, here's a link. Or follow me on Goodreads, here's a link. And that's because that's the only other way I can maintain those eyeballs. And farming out to a middleman is never ideal, but it is what we get. So,
that's right. Yeah, I do Goodreads and I do Amazon Author Central, but I do not do BookBub. How about you, Jennifer? How do you?
I'm on all 3 of those, and probably a few more that are pretty obscure at this point.
Oh, let us know.
Yeah.
The reason, I'm just going to jump in and say the reason for BookBub is because both Goodreads and Amazon belong to Amazon now, and you get readers who are really virulently anti-Amazon for good reason, but they're out there. So you want to just have an alternative.
Right. There used to be something called Library Thing back in the day.
I think it's still around.
Is that? Yeah. How do we feel about conventions in the world of COVID. Conventions used to be my big way to make contact with people. Have you been participating in many conventions in the last 6 months? No?
I haven't.
No? Is this your first one?
For quite a while, yeah. When I did go to conventions, however, I was more into talking to my peers. I don't know that, I think the ones that I mainly went to were the Hugos, which is more fan-centric, and then the complete blank. The science fiction.
Nebulas?
The SFWA, the Nebulas,
Yeah,
yes.
the Nebula, yeah.
I like, that's actually my favorite one, because I just like networking with my peers and
Networking, aka making friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Met lots of people that way.
I think, Gail, I first met you at a convention in Portland, Oregon.
Probably. I do a lot of conventions.
Oh, wow.
So are you doing, how about in the last 6 months?
No, I haven't done any traveling whatsoever. I've compromised lungs, so this thing has taken me, I haven't barely left the house. Fortunately, I'm an introvert, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
To me that much anyway. Yeah, I used to do 12 events a year usually, and that early in my career it involved a lot of book tours, which I loathe, so I have stopped now. And not because I loathe like meeting people in bookstores, that was awesome, mostly because I loathe the 10 cities in 10 days rigmarole of air travel. So I consider conventions largely based on my peers and whether I'm going to meet people I like there, whether I want to go there. But also I try and spread out. So I do what I would call an industry con, like sci-fi or fantasy, small cons. And then I do book fairs, festivals, and Comic-Con. I usually try to do 1 or 2 Comic-Cons a year too, because they're big and you meet you meet a large number of people. And so but yeah, I think it is to meet readers, but it's really mostly to interface with industry, and there are different reasons to go to the different events, or at least there were. I don't know how many are going to survive and what the new world is going to look like out the other side of this. Yeah. But maybe you get it's an awfully expensive way to try to get new readers, I would say. Yeah. There's a lot of noise and chatter. It is a great way to meet existing readers. But yeah, I don't know about new readers. Not now. That's a difficult. It's hard to, on the other hand, and this is another reason to have Amazon Central, I will go to Amazon Central, which has a geographic data distribution map that you can take a look at based on your Nielsen sales. And you can bop over there and take a look. And every time I leave a place, I'll go and I will see a spike in my sales for that location.
Yes.
So you do get new readers.
Yeah.
In new places.
Yeah, because when you show up in person and you're talking, you're an interesting person, people get intrigued by you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, I think it's going to trade on your personality. If you're not the type of person who knows how to give a good show,
or likes to or feels comfortable,
public speaking, all of those things, then maybe, I love it. I had to put on a party dress for a webinar. Right?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? But that's part of the brand, my brand and my personality is to just go all out and have a grand old time, and it works, right? The example I always use is I was at Comic-Con in 2012 with 250,000 people, and I'm walking down the hallway, and somebody says, "You're Gail Carriger," and I said, "It works."
Well, it does work, and you're very recognizable as well. How about you, Jennifer? How do you feel about cons?
I love going to cons, but again, it's more for networking and just meeting people and stuff. I have met up with fans. Whenever I'd go to a con, I usually organize a meetup through social media. I'll just sort of say, hey, I'm going to be in Seattle on this date, and I'll be able to get to this restaurant at this time.
Nice.
If you want to join us, we can do that. And that's worked out rather well. but yeah, I wouldn't look at that as a place to get new eyeballs on my books. I know a lot of authors do sell at tables at cons. I don't know how successful that is.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's
a lot of work.
But there are other ways. For example, I have a reading and a coffee clutch
Yeah.
over the next few days. So let's tell people about that. Here we are. Here we are. And we're putting ourselves out there. Gail, tell us about your reading and your coffee clutch.
I don't do readings because I suck. So I don't like to do things I'm not good at. But I do love a coffee clutch. It is actually my favorite thing to do at a convention. If I had my druthers, I would just do a coffee clutch every day of every convention I do. I love them so much. And I really, I don't know if they're going to record the coffee clutch. So if they record the coffee clutch for this event, then I will not talk about everything and anything. But if they don't, I will. But that's generally my policy at a coffee clutch is like, you come to see me and it's open season, like ask away. So yeah, I have a grand old time. So I do have one, I think maybe tomorrow morning is mine. I'm not sure on the details.
Okay. And Jennifer, reading and coffee clutch?
I like Gail, I don't like reading my own work, but I do have a clutch with Julie Cisnerda. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name.
Cerneda.
Okay. And that is tomorrow at 4.
Excellent.
So.
Good. I have a reading tomorrow at 2 p.m. and a coffee clutch at 10 on Sunday. And at my reading, I will be reading from my new, let me see if I can get this right, lesbian stoner buddy comedy with fairies. It's
I'm
really
there.
funny.
So
I think you'll enjoy it. So that's tomorrow at 2.
Yeah, and I just looked mine up, and my clutch is tomorrow at noon, but I haven't got my Zoom link information yet, so
yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work, but that's
we'll have to find out about that. All right, a few more questions. We've only got 10 minutes left. How do libraries factor into your business strategy? Jennifer, what do you think?
I make sure that my works are available to libraries, and when people ask me on social media, why can't I'm exclusive to Amazon for a lot of financial reasons that I could go into, but it doesn't seem relevant. So if they ask me, why can't I get your book on Kobo or this or that? So I always just point them to the local library and say, if they don't have it, please request it. And I do know that I have quite a few libraries across the country do carry my books, even though I'm independently published, which is fairly unusual. So yeah, I mean, I encourage people to do that. So, but yeah, that's part of it. That's part of what I do. But I haven't solicited libraries like specifically. I don't know if there is a way to do that. Do you know, Gail?
So I attend conventions occasionally. I ghost in, and I have done that a couple of times in these non-COVID days. And one of the ones I attended had an excellent panel on with librarians talking about getting indie books in particular into libraries. And really, you've got to get the patrons to request it, which means you at least need to be in the system in some way or another, whether that's a print book that's via Ingram, which we all hate. What a nightmare, but there it is. Don't tell Ingram I said that. Yeah, so I encourage you to encourage any readers, fans, friends, family, whatever, to activate the library on your behalf. And this is one of those insidious ways, like rather than getting people to go into bookstores and make things facing, those sort of cruel tricks of the old days, just get everybody to request your books at libraries. That's like really a great way to get yourself into libraries, is to get people to request them. I am wide as a independent published author, so I am in library systems. I'm in Overdrive in particular, and I do really, really well there. So one of the things to think about very carefully so I would encourage, if you are going to go wide, to go to Kobo directly and to use them for Overdrive, since they own Overdrive. rather than using a middle person like Draft to Digital. There are other reasons to do Kobo directly, not the least of which is their promotions tab, which I find very, very useful. I pivoted to focus on Kobo recently, and I managed to triple my sales numbers on Kobo just by constantly using their promotions, like tabs and stuff. So, but they also have overdrive. So that would be one tip. The other tip is you want to think very carefully about your price point when you're pricing for libraries. You should price double print or triple your digital sale. So if you have a 99-cent book, it should be something like $3.99 when you're pricing it for a library. And that comes off as like price gouging libraries, but actually it's just, they won't take you seriously if your book isn't priced to look more traditionally published. And traditionally published books will be priced in the $50 to $100 range for the library circulation system as digital. So when you're pricing your digital book for a library, you do need to have a different, higher price point.
We do have a question. Somebody's asking if a Kathy Klatch is like an AMA, Ask Me Anything. Yeah, it's like we're sitting around and talking in person.
Yeah.
So instead of this kind of situation.
Exactly. It's like a round table. And at conventions, it's actually round tables. It's usually limited to 10 to 15 people, and you all sit at a table drinking coffee and chatting with an author. You have to sign up for it. It's very exclusive and exciting.
It's really fun. It's a great way to get some FaceTime with your favorite writers. All right.
I got to Coffee Clutch with Tamora Pierce when I was in my 20s, and I know! I'm still recovering from the experience.
I got to tell you, Fran Wilde gives one of the best Kathy Klatches I have ever seen. Man, that woman can tell a story. So a little bit of myth busting here. Is 50 reviews on a title on Amazon a magic number for anything? Now, this is a rumor that has gone around for a long time now.
For years. I don't know. I'll report back shortly. I usually get 100 reviews within the first couple of weeks when I release, so I have never struggled. Now, I have nonfiction, and that one is much slower burn on reviews. People are slower to read it, and they're slower to review it because they feel like they have to have something to say about the information content rather than just, I liked it or I didn't like it, which is how people review fiction. So I'll let you know if after 50 reviews in however many months, suddenly things change for me.
I'll tell you that nothing changed when my book got over 50 reviews. So how about you, Jennifer? I see you shaking your head.
I don't think that's a magic number. I think there's a lot more dynamic going on with the algorithms on Amazon, and I also think it changes all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So anytime that someone says that they've figured out the magic formula, within 2 weeks it's going to be old news. I would say the most important thing is to have verified reviews, and don't solicit them in a natural, way. I mean, it's. I think it's just it's a building process. It's not going to happen overnight. So
yeah, for sure. I'm going to let's see. I think we already dealt with the what other in-person options can grow your audience that we haven't talked about. Is there anything? What about local newspaper coverage?
I think if you are writing a story that is set in an area that specifically takes that locality into play, then activating certain aspects of that locality, local bookstores in tourist towns, for example, that sort of thing can maybe be helpful. But by and large, unless your demographic is a newspaper demographic, so unless you're writing cozies, I guess.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I mean, my mom loves it.
Exactly. My mom loves the newspaper and she loves the cozy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think local in-person, I mean, I like to do local in-person, like book signing events and stuff like that. I've done tea stuff, but I would say that they are more fan service for existing fans than they are getting me new readers, unfortunately. The place, I think, events that are good for new readerships are free open-air book festivals. I think that, especially if you give good panel or you're good behind a booth, because you will often have a hand sell in those situations as well. Those are the places where I after I leave one of those events, I get a lot of people following me or sending me email or whatever that says like, oh, I discovered your book because I'm really excited about it, kind of.
Sure, because these are passionate readers. They don't show up there unless they are.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to encourage you each to tell us what you have got for people to read that is new and fresh right now, and one piece of advice for people who are just starting out. Tidbit, in the last couple of minutes of the panel. And I will let Jennifer start.
Tidbit for people starting out: be your authentic self on social media. Look for others that are like you. If you're just your authentic self, you'll attract other people that might be interested in your book because they like you. So that's if you're looking for new eyeballs, that's a great way. Just be interesting, be yourself. And the other question.
What have you got fresh for people to read?
Oh, yes. I just published an omnibus of my first 3 books plus the related short stories. So it is it's just come out about a month ago, I think, on Amazon. And so, yeah, look for that.
Excellent. Good. Go, Gail.
Real quick, I'm going to start by saying I have a resources tab on my website, and it includes a section for beginning authors so I don't, on Twitter, etc., I don't actually talk about the craft or the business side of writing very much at all. You have to like catch me on a podcast or at one of these sorts of things. But I do have a few blog posts that touch on some of the stuff I've already talked about here. So there's a collection for beginning authors, and then there's a collection for more established authors. Also, the contact page of my website lists all of the tools and the independent contractors that I use and recommend if you are thinking about self-publishing. So my developmental editor is there, my copy editor is there, but also I talk about Vellum and Scrivener and all those sorts of things there. So that's the contact page of all those things are on my website. So you can go poke around there for more tips and tricks. Let me see. The pieces of advice that I always give, and I'm going to reiterate for those who came in late, is get yourself a newsletter as soon as possible and get in the habit of producing it regularly. I do mine monthly, and that seems just fine. And then the other thing is to think about your cover art as a symbol that represents the emotional tenor of your book, not as a thing that is a scene from the book. So the cover art is the single most important thing about your book. Sorry, it's not the story. It's gonna be the cover. So newsletter, cover art, those 2 things. My most recent release is nonfiction. It's this little puppy here, which is The Heroine's Journey, which is me offering an alternative model to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And I include pop culture examples of the heroine's journey, and I include a beats breakdown on how to write the heroine's journey. And yeah, I talk about Gothic tropes and archetypes and all the other things you might need. It's also me, so it's silly and ridiculous.
Nice.
As well. So yeah, that's my most recent thing.
Good. And in the last few seconds, I have a story out in the Book of Dragons, which is a beautiful anthology. My story is called La Vitesse, and I hope that you will check out the anthology, which is amazing, full of superstars and really good stories. And my advice is find your peers. Those are the people who will keep you going throughout your writer life. All right. Thank you so much for being at our panel, and I hope to see you all at our various coffee clutches and readings over the next 2 days. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
That was amazing, you guys.